What's up, my good peoples? Welcome to the Be Transformed podcast, where we bring entertainment with thoughts and ideas that stimulate identity, purpose, vision, and action. I am James Anderson. With me is Kyle Entenman and Logan Eaton. My good bros, what's cracking?
Hey, thanks for having us again.
Welcome to be here.
Really glad to be here again.
Tim Broga.
Yeah. Great opportunity.
I'm really welcome to be here too. I'm really happy to be here too.
You're welcome and happy. And I'm happy that you're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice. Well, today I thought we'd talk about getting sold on who you are, why you are, and your ability in God. When we talk about getting sold, I mean, what does that make you guys think about? Getting sold on who you are.
You got that one, Logan?
The first thing that popped into my head was just a fruit stand.
Fruit stand.
Yeah.
Maybe
that has parallels. I don't know.
What kind of fruit is in it?
I just saw the fruit. Maybe a tomato.
In a fruit stand.
I just saw. Yeah.
Is it tomato a fruit?
There's a widespread cultural phenomenon. There's hypocrisy
a lot of
about
science.
this constantly.
A lot of science out there.
It's like an avocado. Is an avocado a fruit or a vegetable?
I don't know, but they're really good.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
The soft stuff on those.
Avocados
things.
or tomatoes?
I like avocados. Tomatoes are all right.
So you're talking about being sold
On who you are.
who you are.
Yeah, and your vision, your purpose, identity.
Yeah.
Like,
Having confidence in yourself.
yeah, enough to take action
Right.
on what you see, on who you are, even if nobody else is going with you.
I can relate to that.
Can you relate to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
In what arena?
How do you relate to that? Give it to us.
So can we just talk about the fruit stand?
Like a metaphor?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess. So yeah, sometimes I guess I've realized in people that I know, I when I'm communicating things that I want to do or things that I'm thinking about, and it just doesn't click with them. So you feel like you're, I don't know. You can feel lonely sometimes if nobody's kind of understanding what you want to do or where you're going. And so, yeah, I think selling yourself has to do a lot. For me, the first thing that comes to mind is confidence, just having confidence in yourself. Because you can't sell yourself unless you're confident in who you are and what you're actually selling. Because nobody ever buys from somebody that's not sure what they're selling. I think this works.
Is that a tomato or is it an avocado? Well,
They
sir,
I think
do,
I
but-
found this in the...
And then they realize they've been tricked.
this is organic.
Yeah.
Found it in the dumpster.
confidence. That's what I think about. And sometimes it's lonely if you're doing crazy stuff.
Do you feel lonely?
I don't.
Oh.
Sometimes before I have.
Nice.
Just depends on how crazy you are.
It's okay. Crazy can be a good thing, you know? Takes some craziness to do big things sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Make the moves.
And if people aren't on the same mental wavelength, sometimes it's just like people just don't understand, or you just can't connect with some people sometimes.
I get that.
So sometimes selling yourself can be hard, I think.
Selling yourself on yourself
Sure.
or selling yourself to somebody else?
Both?
Both. Yeah. Yeah. So this concept of being sold is one I was thinking about with David and Goliath, but in particular, the conversation that David had with King Saul. So on a whole, Israel and the Philistines were kind of camped out in front of each other for 40 days. And every day Goliath would come out. He's 9 feet tall, big and ugly. And he'd come out and he's like, just send one person over here, to fight me. And then if he wins, you guys win. If we win, we win, whatever. Well, nobody showed up, right? Nobody would step up to the line. In fact, every day he would come out, he would approach the Israel's army's battle line, and they would kind of run in terror. And so for 40 days, this has been going on. All right, well, David gets sent because his brothers are there. His dad sends him with some provisions and some stuff for their commanders and whatever. And so David shows up and is talking to his brothers. This Philistine comes out. Goliath comes out, gives his same old pitch, and, the people are running in terror. And David's like, what's happening? And so at the same time, he hears these people behind him. They're talking about, he's like, man, you guys know about, what the king's going to do for the guy who will kill him? He's like, he's going to give him wealth. He's going to make his family tax exempt. You know what I'm doing? Logan's feeling that one.
I've never paid taxes.
Yeah. And you get the king's daughter. Interesting. So David, hearing that, seeing the Philistine, is like, who the frick does this guy think he is? This uncircumcised Philistine, that he would defy the armies of God. All right, well, this is interesting because his attitude brought about his speech, right? And so it was that speech then that somebody heard it and told the king what David had said.
David's speech.
Yeah, of like, who is this guy, right? Which is fascinating. They've been there for 40 days, right? Everybody's becoming numb with fear. And so here's David, who shows up, and he gets pissed, essentially. And so he gets brought to the king, which is fascinating because that means that there's nobody else there with that kind of mentality or attitude. All right, so David gets brought to the king, and David speaks first, and he says, don't let anybody lose heart anymore. He says, I will go and kill this guy. And so, you just think about this process of being sold on who you are, why you are, and your ability in God. So here's David, this young boy who came to bring his brother's food, sees this 9-foot warrior come out where all the men are like cowering in fear in Israel. And he sees this guy, and he's like, who the frick does this guy think he is? All right. So he approaches Saul, says, dude, nobody panic. I got this. Saul says, dude, there's no way. You're a little child. He says, this man has been a warrior since he was a child, right? So Saul just flat out says, you can't do it. So it's at this point, right, where you got to be sold. You got to be sold on what you can do, because he just says, I have the solution. Saul says, no, you don't. David says, let me tell you a story, right? He says, so he's pulling on his past experiences. He says, no. Look, I'm a shepherd. I watch my father's sheep. And when a bear and a lion would come, take a sheep and run off with it, I went, grabbed the sheep from its mouth. Then the animal turned on me. I grabbed it by the hair and struck it. And killed it.
Jeez.
I mean, you think about even that process of taking a small sheep out of the mouth of a bear or lion. I mean, you're right up in the grill. And then for that thing to turn on you, I mean, you're in very close proximity. He grabs it by the hair, like on its head. I'm imagining it anyways. He grabs it by the hair, which means danger close, right?
Right.
He strikes it and kills it. And he says, God who delivered me from the paw of the bear and the lion will also deliver me from this Philistine.
I like that. So he's kind of pulling on those past experiences of being like showing his strength in those regards.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But just this concept, right, is one, he has these past experiences, but it's these past experiences that causes him these experiences of taking action. Even when nobody else was around. I mean, you could think about the value of a sheep and then the value of David. He's out there watching his father's sheep. I mean, is your father more concerned about the one sheep getting carried off by a bear, or is he more concerned about you? But David, with responsibility and apparently ditching fear altogether, goes and grabs a sheep out of the animal's mouth. Yeah, so, I mean, when you guys think about that story, I mean, what is that? Does that do anything for you? Is there some relatability or some oomph that comes out of that?
Well, for me, I mean, it's like, wow, that kid had some cojones.
Yeah, some gonads.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeez.
Yeah, I think looking at some of the past experience of I had, like, thinking of situations where I've come really close to, like, being a lot worse off than I could have been, and I like had the strength and got through those situations, even to become stronger, learning through them. And that's how I can relate. I was never, with the animal stuff, but
You never grabbed a
yeah,
lion by the
no,
mane
I
and
know,
stabbed
no,
it?
I never was that brave. But I tell you what, I've been in some situations where, just my personal story where I thought I'd never make it out of there, or I look back at it and I'm like, wow, that something was. What did you say that God had his eye on David while he was doing this?
Sure.
Yeah, so kind of pulling on those past experiences and be like, wow, you meditate on those sometimes, and that helps kind of formulate your game plan for conquering the stuff in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, would you say like your past experiences, like the habits that you broke and the new lifestyle you created, I mean, does that all happening inside of God, but do you use that like as you think about the future, be like, no, I did this, so I can do this?
Yeah, and we talked about last time about not defining yourself by your past failures, which is, I think, it's important too. Like not being like, oh man, I didn't do that last time, so I definitely can't do it this time. But it's also important to meditate on, like, this happened, and it went exceedingly much better than I thought it was going to happen. So looking at both, not dwelling on the possibilities of failure, but looking at and realizing the strong possibilities of success, and even more success than you even dreamed of.
Yeah, well, I even mean like you successfully changed your lifestyle,
Yeah.
and your life, right? So that the process that you went through is a victory of becoming who you wanted to become. And so it's like that experience then has weight. It's like, I did that. I can do that again. Here's this next goal. Here's this next thing I want to do. And I can do that because of, and you say, no, and here's proof where I've done it before.
Proof, yeah.
That's where you use that over the past experiences
Over
of
the past
failure
experience,
of this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I agree with all that. I know I could probably pick out some times where it's the same thing. You go through some stuff, learn from it, get better at it, and you can take on more stuff. But I think what popped into my head was like, so we've all been through stuff like that that's prepared us for different stuff and taking on more different things. And I think it's interesting that Dave. I think if like a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have thought that was like pride. If somebody questioned my ability to do something, I would have thought, well, bringing up my past experiences and victories would be pride. But I think we just skew pride with so many different things, and it's like David was okay with saying, no, wait, right. I've done this before. I've done worse than this. Like even being even talking to someone in maximum authority like Saul. David still had the confidence to be like, no, you're wrong. I've done this before. I've done worse than this. Let me do this. And so, yeah, I think I would have got that confused with, or maybe, a couple of years ago or back in college, I would have thought that was, if somebody had questioned my ability to do something like that, I would have thought, well, saying that those things might be pride, and I might not say it and may never do anything great. But I just think the thing that popped into my head was that we get pride and humility skewed sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. What do you, well, do you have like if you had to define what is actually pride and what is pride not?
Yeah. Do we have a Webster's
dictionary? Yeah.
Right. I think maybe a negative concept of pride is thinking too highly of yourself, or giving yourself glory. David made it pretty clear that it was to God's glory that he did all those things. I don't know. I think then we think of humility sometimes as like degrading yourself almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think in the right context, or maybe with the right definition, pride's important. It kind of spurs on confidence, and it spurs on aggression to go tackle different things. take on different things. And I guess I'm not saying as like self-glorifying yourself or
Yeah.
glorifying yourself, but
You're saying like you said like pride in your work.
almost,
or
yeah,
something
like take it,
that.
like almost taking pride in those past
Mhm.
circumstances. Like I was able to do that through God. I was able to
Right.
to do that.
Mhm.
And that was a win. It's okay calling that a win and
Mhm.
a victory.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul said it. He said, I don't remember where, but he was talking about how essentially he's like, you don't put yourself up against somebody else. I don't measure my success based upon your success. Right. Like you look at yourself correctly and then you judge between yourself. Miles says it like this, when you think about like success, right? So it's not about, you never measure your success upon somebody else. So he tells this story about how he got the highest grade in class, and he brings his paper to his mom, and his mom is not happy. And he's like, "But mom, I got the highest grade," and he got like a D. He got a 64. She's like, this because. This means everybody else is dumber than you. You don't measure your success by other people's failures, right? He's like, that doesn't speak to your potential. You have the ability to become more. So success is defined by what you did compared to what you could have and should have done. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this misconception of humility, because like you said, people think humility and it's like, okay, well, oh no, I'm not good. Or if people try to give you a compliment, they're like, oh, it was Jesus.
Right. You have to stay like kind of a confined version of yourself.
Yeah. And Bill Johnson, he says, people who say that, he said, oh, it was Jesus. He's like, it wasn't that good. You know what I mean? It's like,
I like
you
that.
learn to say thank you.
Learn to appreciate, to value yourself. Yeah.
But it comes out of fear of thinking that I'm going to somehow steal glory from God or this weirdness, when all the while you are to bear the glory of God.
Yeah.
But
that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Amen.
So, I mean, you think about love and you think about humility, dude, you have to be somebody who has identity to be humble. If we're having a conversation and somebody's talking and they're like a total
D-bag.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Just someone you don't like.
Well, but if they're like full of themselves and they're trying to say, oh, I'm better at this, and you're like, inside you're like,
why am I sitting with this guy?
Right. Well, like,
who is this guy?
You can recognize, dude, you're young and you're immature, but so humility would be not smashing that guy, with the truth of, dude, let me show you what you actually look like in the mirror. Like, that's humility, but you have the ability to see the situation correctly because you have identity, right? Because you're secure in who you are. If you want to love your neighbor as yourself or love and bless your enemy, you have to be secure in who you are. You can't be thinking you suck and you're weak and life is hard, right? You can't do those things and progress. So anyway, humility, if humility was in the middle, like if it was a scale and you had the two extremes on the outside. So if you had humility, then you had like arrogance, and then you on the other extreme would be identity crisis and insecurity. So it's like, yeah, I think so we become so afraid of arrogance that we lean towards identity crisis and insecurity. But that's masquerading as humility, and that junk isn't okay. Because like you said, it's like thinking highly of yourself is not arrogance. It's thinking too low of other people. That's arrogance. There's value in understanding who you are and being able to look at other people for who they are and not judge yourself accordingly or look down on yourself because of their standing.
Yeah.
But you think about David. I mean, you can't have that kind of attitude and live in self-doubt. You're not going up there, no, look, I killed the bear, I killed the lion, I'm going to kill this guy. He said, God will deliver me. But this is interesting. He said, the Lord delivered me from the bear and the lion, and he'll deliver me from this Philistine. For God to deliver him, he has to put himself in the situation. And he has to use his abilities to go kill this guy. He just believes that he will have the victory. Well, he believes it, and the proof of belief is his action. Because not only does he sell himself on like, no, I'm going to go do this. Then he goes and does it. But what else is interesting is, so Saul says, all right, go and let the Lord be with you. Then Saul puts his body armor on David, right? And he's got the helmet and it's like this stuff, he's just a kid and he's wearing all this stuff. It's all heavy. But I don't know if it's just because the dude lives by himself, lives with sheep all day long. Like he just doesn't have this insecurity or this. He's not confused about who he is, right? Which you can sometimes is the thing that's fostered when you're around these big groups, right? He wasn't confused at who he was, so he put on all this stuff, which made him look legit. He looked like a legitimate warrior, but he's like, no, man, I can't move in this stuff. I need to move. I know what I'm capable of. So it's just interesting how he knew who he was and he knew what he needed to do what he said he could do. And it was not to look like this, like the typical warrior looked like, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So he says he's going to go do it, and then he goes and does it, right? He gets a stone, slings it at him, sinks into his head, Goliath falls down. Then David runs at Goliath, grabs his sword, cuts his head off, then picks up his head. And he said after he left, he delivered the head to Jerusalem, like a pizza.
Wow.
Yeah.
He went above and beyond.
He
went above and beyond.
Here's it blows my mind, right? So for one, I don't understand why Israel let Goliath dictate their terms, right? Goliath came out and he was like, hey, give me one man, and I'll kill him. Why didn't Saul and the army just go kill him and kill everybody else? Like, why are you letting the enemy dictate your terms, right? Like, you don't have to do that. But two, it's like if David didn't show up, I mean, how long would those guys have been there?
Just sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. In the fear you talked about.
Yeah. Forever. Until somebody showed up who knew who they were, knew who God was like, there's no way this guy should stand in opposition against God and his people. I'm going to go get this guy.
So David had the identity with who he was in God, and then he made the actions based upon his confidence in God and looking at his prior things that he amply accomplished.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
No, that's cool. Yeah, so when you think about getting sold on who you are, why you are, and what you're capable of, right? Your potential. Like, how do you get sold? Like, what do you guys do? You guys both have visions and dreams of taking action. Like, what are you guys doing to keep yourselves moving forward, to keep the belief cooking? Even while you're still just working it out, trying to figure it out, but you're still like, no, I'm gonna friggin' get it. What do you guys do?
Well, for me, I joke, it's a cultivation process. Like, I wake up and I have my routine in the morning, but my thoughts are trying to gear towards away from, I got to work again to get a paycheck, or I got to do it for this reason. I try to change it to, okay, what can I do today? Who can I, what connections can I make? How can I work towards my vision? That's how my thoughts try to center on now. And as I go about my day, when maybe that self-doubt comes out, or I've never done something before, I try to face everything now and do it, versus the old me might have ran from it more and, I've never done that before, so why should I try that? I can't try that. Oh no, what if this happens? Instead of I'm gone, what if, and you can either choose, either something good's going to happen or something bad's going to happen. I mean, I think too, we have a propensity to pick, go towards the bad, the negative. Oh no, this bad stuff's going to happen. Yeah. So I've tried to just kind of listen to that voice inside of me that just says, just do it. So I try to make each day kind of that, tilling the soil and seeing what task I can accomplish this day, even if it's just meeting one person or having one conversation. I consider that a success, and doing things I'm uncomfortable with doing. That's how I try to propel through my day.
I like it.
Thank you.
What do you think, Logan?
Yeah. Three things came to mind, I guess. So like
fruit stand.
3 things.
Three
Yeah.
things came to mind.
Avocados, tomatoes.
Three
and-
things came to mind, but I forgot the question. Yeah, I'd say it's just a mixture of all that. So moving was one, ignoring was the second one, and asking was the third one. Is kind of things that I find myself doing a lot. So like moving would be like just doing anything that you can do to get one step closer. So reading something, watching something, even just telling yourself something, or seeking out, I guess, who God is in the Bible, figuring out an answer for yourself. And then ignoring is, I guess, would be like just ignoring the things that you used to believe, that you couldn't do this, or it's not feasible to do that, or I don't know, just ignoring the things that you might have believed that might have just turned you off of a mission in the past, or ignoring, I guess, maybe the people that maybe had turned you off in the past, or I don't know. But it just seems like when you start moving towards something, then the opposition comes up that causes a need for a lot of ignoring, of the opposition. So you start moving somewhere, and then the old thoughts and the old voices start to come back, or you start to hear even new ones that are telling you, don't go this way, or what is it going to look like? You don't even know what it's going to look like, or you don't even know if it's, could it fail? Could it be good? So just ignoring those things that are like just trying to slow you down, and then asking for this, just like asking for exactly what you want, or exactly what you need to carry out a mission or have influence or do something. Just being exact in prayer, I guess, exact and not being afraid to ask for it, and letting if it letting it just be that, just ask for it, but not wait for it, I guess. Ask for it, but don't like, if there's anything that you can do in your power to go get it, ask for it, and then move to go get it, and figure out whether it's, I guess, whether you're moving in the right direction or not, maybe.
Sure. Like the active seeking.
Yeah.
Seeking isn't a sitting sport.
Yeah. Asking for it, and then just having faith that if you're in the midst of seeking it, it's not supposed to be, you'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like you're talking about ignoring essentially the stuff that's trying to slow you down. Yeah, I wrote down on my board where I was kind of just getting all vision and plans up, and it's just something I kind of keep working on, and whether it's for like the next week or whatever. But anyways, one of the phrases I got up there is, don't even think about dragging your feet. Because the concept that I embraced and committed to was, take a bite bigger than you can chew, and then do everything it takes to hit the target, to achieve what it is you set out to do. So in that mentality, it's like, don't even think about dragging your feet. Like, just show up. Like that's been the biggest thing, is just show up. And I find with this repetition of showing up, you build the stamina to the point where it's like you don't think about the crap you have to ignore anymore. It's just like it's through this experience of showing up where you're like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. Where I used to would have thoughts of like, you'd pull on some past experience where it's like you went to try to do something and it was really hard. Like your creative juices were dry. You know what I mean? So instead of believing that I'm going to run into a hiccup, I'm like, no, everything that God has called you to, he's also given you the ability to accomplish. All right. That doesn't mean it's void of work, but it means that you have the ability to achieve it. So you go with a certain perspective of, I'm going to win. And then you go and do everything it takes to win. But it's the mentality, right? That David mentality is like, who the freak is this guy trying to tell us who what our life should look like.
Yeah. So do you think the Israelites didn't have the right perception of who God? Because if they did have the right perception of who God was, it wouldn't have been such an issue.
Yeah. Well, I still don't understand why they let Goliath set the terms of war.
Almost like they didn't really even know. They themselves didn't even know who they were following or worshiping.
Sure.
I don't
Right.
know,
They
that's what I
all they
thought.
saw was this.
'Cause then there wouldn't have been a problem. There shouldn't have been a problem.
All they saw was this 9-foot tall beast of a man, and we're like, "Holy crap!" And he's dictating the terms. What are we gonna do? Instead of, I don't care what that guy says. Everybody, let's go and get into the battle. But instead, they were like, "No, this obstacle's too big. It's too scary." You know. But when you think about like practically, right? Like how practically could we take this topic, this idea, and apply it to life? Do you guys think?
Very much practically.
Very much practical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you're thinking about David, and then you're visualizing that with the 40 people behind him, just kind of, in fear of, oh, we can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And living a life that your actions go into things versus, and accomplishing things versus kind of being in the crowd of people who are second guessing things. Like, that's what I choose to try to live my life. Like, I don't want to be the action-less person. I want to be the more person.
Yeah.
So I kind of use that when I see that, because I at least I notice it. I go into crowds, or I'll even at my job. It's people are they doubt. They second guess themselves. They might ask me questions, and you can see doubt in people sometimes, and I label that, and I'm able to, I don't know, for myself, it's just, sure, I have doubt, but I do the opposite action of, I do the actions that get me out of that, or I'm going to learn something from it. I'm going to learn something. So that's the kind of attitude I go into it. But I think you can practice that everywhere you go, at home, or when you get out to the world out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about maybe even somebody in the Israelite army, like, how do you go from somebody who's standing there in the crowd scared with everybody else to somebody who says, "This is stupid. What why are we standing here?
Yeah.
Like, let's go freaking do something."
Yeah.
How do you become that guy?
How do you become the guy that says, "Let's go do something"?
Yeah.
I think
Make that fruit stand.
Yeah. Start throwing some tomatoes.
Yeah. How do you go from being the Israelite that's scared to being David that wants to get after it?
Yeah.
I think David probably had a lot of days out there where he was tending some sheep and ready to get after something, ready to, I don't know. And I think coming in and maybe seeing an opportunity. I think it just, it takes, you can't be afraid of responsibility or accountability.
Ooh.
Like, it's going to take some effort to go step out and attack this guy.
Yeah.
It's going to take it's going to take faith bigger than just waking up and being a normal soldier like we were doing yesterday before this battle started. It's going to take more faith than just being a soldier in training. And now it's going to take a lot more faith to go out and kill somebody that should beat the crap out of me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it just maybe we kind of get faith mixed up a little bit. Like, what actually is faith?
Ooh. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is it?
I think it's I don't know.
Oh my gosh!
Believing in something that others would say impossible, or having the right perception of who God is, and then believing that He can do whatever it is that you're setting out to do, or can help you, come alongside you to help you do whatever it is you're trying to do. I don't know. I think the accountability, responsibility comes into mind, and then having a crazy faith.
And how do you develop a crazy faith?
You just get sick and tired of not having faith, not just getting steamrolled, being in the background, and the self-degradation, the loser mentality.
The old degradation.
I think you just get tired of being in the. I don't know. You get fed up with being in the background, maybe, or I don't know. What do you guys think? Sounds like I'm just.
Well, I think when the I know change or pain can be a big motivator, and pain comes in different ways. Emotionally, physically, and when you get, like you said, tired of just sitting around on the sidelines.
It's almost like death doesn't matter at that
watching
point.
Watching stuff happen while you're in your head thinking about the things you wanted to do.
Like,
but
I don't care if this kills me.
Yeah, it's just
this isn't right.
Yeah, like
this
just
guy's
do it.
Taunting the army of God.
Yeah, and David obviously had he had a real gung ho, attitude, and he identified himself. He knew his identity and worth. It sounds like, versus maybe some of these.
He knew who he was worshiping.
Yeah,
and who he believed in.
Yeah,
like he had the right idea of who God was.
So he stepped out and did it.
So I think you asked, like, how do you get from the Israelite army to David?
Yeah.
I guess my answer then would then be, you seek out who you say God is.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think you guys, definitely hit on it with one perspective. One perspective, which is a reality, is where you hit rock bottom. And it's like, from that rock bottom, then it's like, okay, it got so bad that I need to change. And that is absolutely one way that brings about change. But another way is being able to recognize it, but then take action on the way you're thinking, the way you're acting, right? And so you're talking about faith, growing in faith, and having this ridiculously epic, like unreasonable amounts of faith.
Yeah, and I don't want to say like we need more faith in that point. I didn't want to give that impression either. Like, it's almost like do you ask for more faith in that situation, or do you just believe what you believe?
So faith comes from hearing, and that of the Word of God, right? So you're talking about like pursuing the knowledge of who God is, right, in the Bible. Okay, so this is how you discover who God actually is, what He said He is, what He said we are. All right, so now this knowledge then brings about faith. It brings about the ability to believe in what He said. Now, belief is proved through action. So belief is something that you conform to, right? So it affects your perspective, the way you view life, the way you view yourself, a situation, circumstance, right? This view then affects your priorities in life, what you think is most valuable. It affects your decisions, what you actually choose to do. So then it affects your actions and then your results. All right, so all these things, this is belief. It's when you conform to what God says about you. It's then your actions then are proof of what you actually believe. So like you said, it's not that like you need to, get FedEx this.
Or pray for more faith.
Yeah, well, but faith comes from hearing. It's like the truth of who God is and who you are and what's available to us, and then getting into it. So faith is using that knowledge.
And if you don't know that, though, you really don't know what faith is then, if you don't know who God is, who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, so the way to get that then is to seek out that knowledge. So knowledge plus application equals experience, right? So I wrote an article about this February 1st, if you guys want to check it out. Daily cultivation on teambetransformed.com. But yeah, so we're talking about how to grow in experience. Well, Jesus in John 8, like 31 and 32, was saying, he said, if you guys obey my teachings, then you'll be my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Mm-hmm. So he says, if you obey my teachings, so first you have to know what those teachings are. You have to know what he actually said, what he said about himself and what he said about God and what he said about you. You got to know what that is. Then he says, if you obey what I say, then you're actually my disciples, right? Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So through the knowledge, then the application of what you know creates experience. Then you will know the truth, right? That's the experiential knowledge. You'll know the truth, and that truth will set you free. Because as you apply the truth, you have faith, you take action upon what God actually said. So if you're justified, who I am, who God is, apart from what everything else looks like and what everybody else says, this is what God said he is and what I am. And I'm going to live my life based upon that. Mm-hmm. It's in that you gain experience. It's in that you have encounters. It's in that in that repetition, right? So you have knowledge plus application, which creates experience. You take that experience and you add more knowledge, or you review your knowledge, and now you have greater understanding. And this is how you become mature and grow in skill. So a way to grow in faith, a way to become somebody who starts to hold ideas that are bigger than what they see around them, is by getting into the truth. Mm-hmm. It's by getting into these things that talk about action, that talk about people who have done things that were absolutely crazy, that everybody said, dude, you're a freaking moron. And no, because it's like, you think about anybody, the people who made the light bulb, electricity, going to the
there's
moon.
Some good stories about all that stuff.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy to make an airplane.
Yeah.
But they did.
They did it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we get these thoughts, right? Like we were talking about those, like last time we were talking about, we get the thoughts, and then it can be without the truth. I've learned those can be smashed. You know, you can get that automatic, nope, I can't do that. Now I'm more trying to cultivate, why the heck couldn't I do something like that? Because, like I said, I don't want to just live and just exist. You know, you can just exist. Sure, you can exist, but why not thrive, you know? But that does, going back, that requires that fundamental truth and knowledge that I've been cultivating over the last probably year more than any time.
Yeah, but the word cultivation is the key, right? So it's like a word God speaks to you is full of potential. It's like a seed. What something starts out as is not all that it's created to be. So as you continue to think about it, you meditate, you marinate on it, right? It's in your imagination. You're picturing yourself with it. It's these things that then that truth begins to take root inside of your guts. And this is how you start becoming transformed by the renewing of your mind. You're taking that knowledge and applying it. And you're becoming somebody totally different from somebody who just stands around with everybody else wondering like, what the... Like, yeah, this is what we do. We run and hide in fear. Like, that's what we do. And David shows up and like, who is this guy? I'm gonna go kill this guy real quick. You guys just stay here, right? He just shows up and says, guys, I got this. But so when you think about David's life, you know, you touched on responsibility. And I think that's something David had, right? He had a job where he was out working with the sheep. So he did what he was called to do. He was out there, he was working it. In that, he grew in experience because he was taking action. You get into the uncomfortable, which causes you to become. So that then, when you get into these situations, you're just like, your perspective is already set correctly. So when you come into a group of other people who don't really know who they are, don't know who God is, you come in, you're like, why are you guys just standing here acting like this? You know, but you come and you start being somebody who brings about change. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you have identity, purpose, and vision. Mm-hmm. This is the importance of getting sold on who you are and why you are. Because, you know, like you were talking about earlier, Logan, about like thinking that would be pride. If to think about yourself holding that much value where you could make that much change. But if you think that it's illegal or a sin to think those thoughts of yourself, then you're never going to dream these dreams. You're never going to do these things that have massive change and massive impact. Mm-hmm. But then what? It's just because then you just start thinking about it. So, well, then what's the point of life? I mean, it's like, okay, I could take action or I could sit here and watch TV, but it's like that I'm literally wasting away. That just that can't be all there is.
Right. I agree.
doesn't take a lot of faith to exist. Just it takes a lot of faith to thrive, though.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what. Yeah, you saying that sparked that.
The tomatoes.
Who?
No,
Gee,
Kyle.
Oh, I said
Oh.
something. That's
You
right.
said
Ooh, boy. Good,
Whoa.
good.
You said something about 20 minutes ago, and it
Okay.
just popped in.
Okay, good. Yep. Well, faith without works is dead, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yep.
Support me on that. Yeah. Got to do it.
Yeah.
Got to do the works.
agree.
Got to do the works.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. So I think for just a
Yeah.
couple practicals before we head out. You think about, okay, so changing the way you think, like in terms of like being in an environment where just even your own thoughts and your own perception of yourself is kind of like that. I just kind of let life happen instead of somebody who makes life happen or creates life in the environment. I think a couple things to get into. I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, you know, yeah. I almost
Did
lost
you?
that. Well, I think you're getting. I hope you were. I think you're maybe.
Yeah.
So we're talking about.
Take me there, Kyle.
We're talking about identity, correct? You know.
Yeah,
something
So
like that.
so, what practical steps or leaving this tidbits can we take away on forming that God identity that we're all are capable of having, that we might not know exactly where to start with or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was thinking if there's stuff in your life where you complain about it, like you think about it and it's stuff that you got to do, or it's just a part of your life where you're like, oh my gosh, right? Like everybody complains about it and whines about it.
Yeah.
But what if you change the way you thought about it?
Yeah.
And we're like, instead of that being something that destroys me, I'm going to destroy it. Like I have the ability to get after it and stay sane at the same time. Right? Like I just even for me, there was the stuff I was getting into and I was like, man, I can't picture this as being something that's like an anchor that slows me down or drags me. I got to think about this as something that propels me forward. And it was that shift of thinking that totally changed, it changes my perception as I take action and continue to take action. I was like, no, this is something that propels me. It's going to propel me. It's going to propel me. Now it's all about the possibilities. It's about the purpose why you do it. Instead of being something that like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, I can't believe I still have to do this, or I hate doing this, or you just keep picturing yourself failing.
You can't differentiate that unless you know what you're going towards, though, right?
Well, so knowledge brings about awareness. So hearing this is knowledge, right? This is going to start creating awareness where like there's already something, that sparks in your mind of like, oh my gosh, that's something that like I don't want to do. But what if you did it anyways? Like you were talking about like, oh, that's uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right? Like somebody was talking about how it's like, if you had to make a sales call or make, or like customer complaint or whatever, he's like, he would just jump right on it. He's like, because the more time you wait, the more room you grow for, the more space you give for fear to grow. Mm-hmm. So he's like, if it's uncomfortable, he's like, that's a sign that I should go do it. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm scared, I'm gonna go do it right now. Like I'm not gonna give it any time. But it's just that being okay, understanding that it's okay and actually vital to get into the stuff and lean into the stuff that's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So one is become aware of how you think and understand that you're created to take action and to win, to achieve, to become, to produce, to succeed. So view everything you do with that perspective. And then two, I think, is get into the truth. You need to continue to cultivate. You need to create an environment, this is what All Day I Keep It Cultivated is all about. It's an environment that stimulates wholesome thinking, that produces thoughts of vision, purpose, identity, and taking action. It's this environment that you continue to put yourself in. You put all this information in front of you, you just keep hearing it, and it just stimulates these ideas, right? So now you're thinking of the future instead of dreading tomorrow, or just thinking about the past. But now you've got this thing that you're thinking about, all because you started to create an environment for yourself that produced thoughts that were bigger than your circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to be in that, to kind of be in that seeking and that, I don't know, learning and soaking all that stuff in, because then you might get around somebody that is, I don't know, not seeking those same things, is okay with just existing, and you start to realize like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can even start to think like, man, am I messed up? Am I messed up? But when so many people around you are so content with just existing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you can't be.
Yeah.
And you can start to think like, oh my gosh, am I wrong?
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah, too. But also on the flip side, I think too, you can attract people too who are
Certain people, certain
trying
people
to do that
will come out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of right out there. You're like, hey, and they're like, oh, I had that, thought and idea too. It's
Or they're just tired of being average or just
Yeah.
existing. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I can relate to you, and
yeah,
I want to go do great things too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they
Seeing it, yeah.
do great things together.
Yeah. And that's that environment. But it's like, am I the only one? I feel like I'm the only one saying these things. I feel like I'm the only one seeing these things. But you're not. And that's why this repetition of the truth is so vital. Like, on our website, and part of All Day I Keep It Cultivated, I'm narrating books of the Bible. And so it's just, it's this reality of listening to the truth, to the Bible, what it actually says, with volume and repetition, because it's this way that, one, you're going to get context, and two, repetition is how you change the way you think. It's what stimulates wholesome thinking. It's this stuff. This is the stuff that you put in your mind when it's like you start to get those doubts or those worries. What do? You crank up the environment of glory, right? You start thinking, oh man, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm wrong. No, you turn it on, man. You go, this is why All Day I Keep It Cultivated exists, right? We got daily articles, videos, podcasts, and the narrated audio Bible.
Maybe a band someday.
Logan's going to start singing right now on his fruit stand. But it's this environment that you keep, because you need to get around like-minded people. And you need to talk about the things that you're planning on doing and the things that you're actually doing, right? You want to spur one another on to action, not just talk, but action. Yeah. But it's all part of the process. But it's that you want to be real intentional about your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because your environment is what you feed off of and are nourished by, this environment that you keep on a habitual basis. So, I mean, your self-talk, the thoughts you think, the feelings you feel. You want to make sure that you're thinking about the things, feeling the way you want to feel, thinking about the things you want to think, so that your mind and your body are all going in the same direction. Instead of you thinking, okay, well, I want to do this, but then you're like, I don't think that's possible, right? You're getting pulled in two different directions.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's too important also, like, for people listening to this, because it can be a very, when you're in a conversation with a group of people, we all know how to make small talk, and but I'm in the mindset of, like, let's talk about some, like, meaningful stuff. Let's talk about where you're going and how to get there. And I know when you're around those people who maybe don't have those same interests or aren't going that same direction, it's like, it's kind of draining. It's like, hey man, like, you're thinking all these. So I think it's important for people who might be, like, listening or have this, to, like, know that there are people out there and who want to cultivate this stuff. You just gotta, like, look for them and be that person who stands out, like David, like, and be like, look, let's not just chat, let's do something about it, Yeah. So, because it's no easier way to get up in your head and have those self-doubts, like, maybe I'm the the weird one because I'm thinking of doing these things, but no one else wants to. It's like, no, like, go do that stuff. Step outside your comfort zone. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Get sold on who you are in God, and then go kill some mother freaking giants.
Whoa.
On purpose.
Yeah, slice their heads off.
Come on. And
put them on a platter.
Deliver it like a
Daddy's
pizza.
hungry.
And a lot of people ended up following him.
Did they?
David, right?
Or the head of Goliath.
No,
David, yeah.
David, yeah.
Yeah, he became
King
king.
of Israel.
You bring-
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good part to know too. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. 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 My good peoples, that is us. Make sure you check us out at teambtransform.com. Check out All Day I Keep It Cultivated. Get in the movement. We are a people who live on purpose. Change the way you think, change your life. Peace.
BT.